Yo, 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 what's going on, guys? What's up, everybody out there? Hope you guys are enjoying your week so far. How good is it coming in after a Warriors victory? Round number 1 done and dusted, and we got our boy to discuss all the news of the weekend, my brother. Joshy, how you going, my man? How you feeling?
Oh, bro. What a win on Friday night. That was absolutely stunning. We all expected to beat the Roosters. No one gave the Roosters a chance. Definitely not us. We both picked the Warriors to win.
We did, baby.
We did. We're 1 for 1 this year, and I never ever in doubt. That's the main thing. Never in doubt.
Never a doubt. Just like all our people jumping in the chat, as always, just our normal faces we see week in, week out. We appreciate all you guys there. Jazzy, what's happening? What is happening? Tans, good to see you back again, as always. 5-star Lexi, good to see you back, my brother. Good to see you there. Tahi, brother, kia ora from the Middle East, the beast out of the Middle East. Who we got? Everyone jumping in. Joshy, what's going on? Carl, what's happening? Appreciate all you guys jumping in the chat, guys. Make sure you continue to hit the subscribe button, like if you enjoy the content, and jump into the chat. It is an open forum, guys, so jump in there, have a chat away. Everyone in there is it's a great community. Everyone loves to chat up in the chat and that, and we'll definitely try and pick out some of your chats to talk about some things. But, well, brother, crazy weekend, right? To start off the weekend on a Friday night, Thursday we got to watch the Melbourne Storm take down everyone's, favourite team coming into this year, the Parramatta Eels. Everyone was thinking Parramatta, here we go, top 8 material. And they may still end up being that way, but we saw the 50 points getting smoked onto the Parramatta Eels. I went, oh, please, boys, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me this year. Friday night, getting in there, I got the message in the WhatsApp group. I'm pretty sure it was Tans going, hey, anyone, how are we feeling tonight? I'm like, a little bit nervous, but I think the boys can do this. We've all put our trust in the boys. And man, how could we ever doubt the boys there? Well, no one. We didn't doubt them.
No way.
No way. 42 to 18. 42 to 18, brother. What an absolute killer performance, my bro. You were out there for the full day, weren't you? How'd you enjoy the crowd? How was the feeling out in Mount Smart Go Media Stadium?
Bro, I don't think there's really anything like it, eh? I went for the New South Wales Cup game into the main game, and after watching the Cup game, I was like, I can't take 2 losses tonight. I'm gonna be so honest. I cannot take 2 losses. But I was there. I've got a membership kind of like on almost like the 40-meter line, which is like awesome. It's such a cool spot, and all the people around are real cool as well. We met this guy who's had a membership for like 24 years or something like that, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, no, it was good. Vibes were good. It was so awesome seeing the crowd kind of like fill in, and just have a full Mount Smart Stadium again. Have a full stadium in Auckland again. Friday night they were rocking it. They had so much, like, when I tell you, like, the Warriors had entertainment. Obviously, on field was entertaining. Yep. But man, they make those nights an event. Man, like, props to whoever is behind the machine at the Warriors, because there were so many things to just keep you entertained. Like, at halftime, they had like a laser light show. Savage came and performed. They had like the little ones running around. I think it was under 8s, under 9s running around as well, and just like such good vibes the whole time. So, like, shout out to the Warriors and the backroom staff, as well as the boys on the field. I mean, everyone put everything together for that first night of the season, and what a first night it was.
What an amazing first night, brother, honestly. And guys, we'll get through our review of the game very, very shortly, but we may as well jump into the news very early on, brother. I did see the comment just popped up here. TJ, what's going on, my bro? Hey, lads, thoughts on the Warbrick signing? So we may as well get it out of the way, brother, before we get into the game. I did want to run to the game, but we'll just jump onto it straight away, because I knew this was going to be a topic to come into this one. So it's not fully confirmed from what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of rumors that it is pretty much the Warriors are just going, hey, we've signed Will Warbrick, but the 10-day standout, the 10-day cooling off period there, Melbourne's got a choice of, fighting back on our offer, basically. But for the Warriors to chase Will Warbrick, brother, how are you feeling about that signing overall? First of all, for me, like, I think that you know, definitely a superstar, like a really good winger. I would say superstar, but a very good, competent winger out in the wing. Like big body, moves really well, great in the air. Does have a little couple of issues, especially, you know, coming to defensively sometimes. He's got very similar issues what wingers usually have, right? I think I'm going to call it winger issues, but you know, and still obviously learning the game in some sort of aspects as well. But he's definitely a lot further along than probably what he was when he first obviously came into Melbourne Storm. And we're getting a better Warbrick than what we had. But definitely keen to have him there. I would probably prefer more of a centre signing, and that maybe something like that will come with the Mitch Barnett move, everything like that. But Will Warbrick coming to the Warriors, brother, how are you feeling about that if it does go through the way it's probably planned to?
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. Obviously, he's a Kiwi, so you know, fingers crossed, no compassionate grounds. But I think that's where we're getting as well, where a lot of the Kiwi boys that are over in Aussie are, you know, almost wanting to come home now, and I think they're seeing what's going on here. And that's enticing them more than, you know, we'd have to pay X amount of dollars for them to come back, you know, like, and so I'm not saying that we're going to pay less than the Storm or whatever on that front, but like these boys are seeing what's happening here at the Warriors. They're seeing what Webby's doing. They're seeing what, you know, the front office are doing, how involved Mark Robinson is, you know, Cam George, Andrew McFadden, like all of these guys are such, like, you know, so involved and so, you know, one mission for this club that it's exciting for them and it's something they want to see and do. And so I don't know, like, again, I'm a bit with you. I'd probably prefer a centre signing. However, like, Will Warbrick is a beast. And he's an aerial threat. He's someone we can target, you know, time and time again. And he has a bit of toe about him as well. He's got a bit of speed. I mean, he's definitely an athlete. He, you know, used to play sevens, and to play sevens, you have to be an athlete.
100%.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that goes. I'll definitely be watching him a lot closer now than I was, you know, previously. But he's a right-sided winger.
Yeah. What is this? What is like? I mean, we got AKP now, right? You know, we brought over Hazen Mellors from the Rabbitohs as well. We still got Roger. We still got Dallin. Then even under those boys, you got your Brendan Norrises of the world. You know, Sio Carly's, Montu Pasicala's. Like, we've got a bunch of players that can play that position at a decent to high level. Would this? I'm seeing a lot of it in the comments already, but would this mean more of the fact of like we're seeing RTS probably in these last couple of years with the Warriors? Are we seeing maybe Dallin being pushed to a side a little bit too? Like, are you thinking that's the way we're kind of pushing with the Warriors, or are we just gonna like how is this move actually gonna work? Because he comes next year if it does happen. We still got AKP who's fighting out for a wing spot. There's just a lot to go around and only 2 spots really to deal with there.
Well, this thing, we're trying to put 5 players into 2 spots at the moment, which, like, again, like we kind of touched on last week, competition is the best thing for us. However, I came into this season thinking that this would probably be near on the end of RTS. I know there was a couple of years ago where R360 was quite big, and you know there was talks about him going that way. That might have been like kind of started last year where that was being talked about, but you know, maybe it's more than just that. Maybe it's more than just Roger. And, you know, I don't know the contract situation around Dallin or around anything like that, but maybe we could be seeing that our 2 wingers, you know, deciding that this is it for them. And that scares me a little bit because there's obviously Mitch leaving at the end of the year and possibly Murata, possibly Kurt. You know, Kurt's on the last year of his deal. Murata's being chased heavily by Perth. So, you know, you see these things and you go, we're losing a lot of talent, losing a lot of experience. And if it is the case where Roger and Dallin go, and you look into the kind of, you know, market for wingers, I guess not many better that realistically would come here than Will Warbrick.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. Is like, you know, we got one of the premier wingers outside of probably the realistic winger that we can attack. Obviously, we would love to have Xavier Coates, those Brian To'os of the world, stuff like that, right? That are upper echelon wingers. But more than likely, they're locked down by clubs, and there's reasons for that. Will Warbrick's got that really high end ability. He is kind of 29 to 30 years old, so he's getting more so towards his end of his career than more to the start. Yeah, it's just going to be really interesting to see how we work it out. There's a great question here from Tans I wanted to get to as well. Is the club targeting Kiwi players? So are you feeling this at the moment? Is it more because of the compassionate ground stuff that you're kind of feeling that the club is going that way? For example, right, when we're talking about the Barnett move, and there's a lot of rumors that he's probably more so going to go to the Broncos than any other team because they've already offered him contracts and they've already kind of put to the table, from what I've rumored, Jesse Arthurs or a Ben Takota. There's a lot of those names getting thrown around. Jesse Arthurs always seems to get thrown around. Being a Kiwi boy, having Jesse Arthurs again would be incredible. But do you think the club's more so looking at targeting Kiwi players and, opposites, just, hopefully not deal with this sort of issue more so than not?
I don't know if it's we're not targeting Australia players over Kiwi players. I just think more on what I was saying before is that Kiwi players are now looking to come home, and the Warriors are a realistic option. And so, as much as it's not their whakapapas here, they feel at home here compared to Australia players. If a good Australian player is on the market and it makes sense for us, I don't think we're going to pass that up, and I don't think Australian players will pass that up either. I don't think that will be something that they'll go, oh well, a lot of these Australian players are leaving the Warriors after a few years, there must be something going on. If there's an opportunity for an Australian player to come here and enhance their career like Mitch Barnett, reignite their career like Kurt Capewell, or try and get their career off the ground like Loffy, they're going to come here. I know Loffy has a bit of Māori in him, and he's kind of half and half / Pakistan and all these other places as well. But he is an Australian boy. He was born over there, raised over there, and he's decided, no, I want to come over to New Zealand and play in New Zealand for the Warriors. So I don't think we're targeting Kiwi players over Australian players or targeting just Kiwi players, but there are Kiwi players that are going, hey, would you guys be keen?
Yeah, 100%. And obviously a good point here too from Jacko. We only just recently signed, Paige Wilson from the Sunny Coast Falcons. So a guy that's been in that Sunny Coast Falcons system for a little while. Sorry, my wife just jumped into the room. How you going? But yeah, no. So it doesn't also it's not saying that they are just focusing on just Kiwi players. Obviously, when Australian players do come to the market and they're good enough and they do want to come over here, I don't think the Warriors are going to shy away from that. But I do think that it is still a little bit of a safety blanket to say if there is a Kiwi player that wants to come home either for cultural reasons or, they got family back here, back in New Zealand, I think that, obviously the Warriors would be such a good ground for those guys to come back home. But a couple other questions before we get through our review of the game, my brother. First one from McGruff. What's going on, my bro? Warbrick big enough for center? I would say probably he's big enough for center. I would never put him at center. It does look like he's only just learnt how to play wing in the NRL. I would just say, coming from rugby, there's so many different nuances, especially in positions and stuff. Center's just on another level to that, especially defensively. We've seen players that grew up playing rugby league at that center position still have problems, defensively in that position. So it'd just be a whole different ball game for me. Is that the same with you?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't even I'd never even considered throwing him in center. It's just not his body doesn't, I don't think, translates to center. I don't think we need that big of a body, that aerial threat, that the running out of the back. We don't need that from center. What we need from center is someone who's going to be able to run a hard line, but be small enough to get through and be strong enough defensively where, they're not getting caught out for being slow or, not being able to turn quick enough and things like that. So it's not that I don't think Warbrick could play center. I think after a while he could play center. It's just that that's not what we would sign him for.
Nah, and the next one from Warsol, Jesse Arthur's rumor still valid. From what my knowledge is, here and there. You're just hearing that many different players get thrown up for this whole trade situation scenario. But Jesse Arthur seems to be the constant name that keeps getting brought up. Would love to have Jesse. I thought he played incredible for us when we did have him through the COVID period. But really, it's down to him, his management, if he wants to come over to New Zealand as well. There's so many different things that go into play with that, and that's stuff that we wouldn't have knowledge of until, I guess, things start getting to movement. But yeah, like it's really
if there was from the Broncos, if you were getting two players realistically from them, what is like your bare minimum and what is your dream?
Bare minimum, I would say, did it have to be two players? Like for me,
it could be one.
I think that Dean Mariner and himself would be good enough to transfer over with Mitch Barnett. I understand that Mitch is we're talking state of origin international player, but Mariner's got the ability to become something really special, can play center. His best position is probably wing, but has the ability to play center, came through the grades as a center. So would love to have him. Looking at so just the Broncos too, you're talking about? Yeah.
Because that's kind of the main spot, right?
Xavier Willison would be like a big one. Just like, but again, I just couldn't see that happen. Other guys really there. There's not really too much that, like, there's guys that obviously would be incredible, like Walsh would be incredible to have over, stuff like that, but they just wouldn't happen. But I think Mariner would be incredible, in my opinion.
Yeah, Reece Walsh would never come to the Warriors, I don't think.
Not back, bro.
I reckon when he's in his 30s and there's another young hot throbber coming through at Brisbane, would be the first on his call list.
Come back, baby.
Me.
Come back.
That's just me.
The other good shout, bro. The other good shout. I heard Justin Horro, so shout out to Hollis, say that Shibasaki, and I could see that. But the only problem with Shibasaki for me is he's done so well in that system, but every other system he's been in, he's never got back to that. So I want to hope that he brings that same mentality to the Warriors that what he had with the Broncos. That's my only thing with Shib.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. So you see, like, Dean Mariner's obviously pretty good. Like, that would be kind of, that standard would be like the lower threshold for me. Like, I would want, if we were getting one player, it couldn't be worse than Dean Mariner. I'd like to see a Karapani.
Yeah.
Karapani would be fun. But yeah, for me, like, Xavier he's like out of this world. If we manage to land him, I mean, like, you look at our second row stocks that are starting to possibly thin out after this year. It could be that, he is second rower for us. Would you take a Jordan Ricky?
Nah.
No?
No, I wouldn't say Geordie. I think Geordie, for me,
it'd be Geordie and someone.
Possibly. I like Geordie's game in the sense of, like, his kick chase, stuff like that, but there's still a lot more to round out to his game. And it's more of a consistency thing. I don't want to have, I feel more confident with a guy like X than I probably do with a Jordan Ricky, for me personally. And he's probably more so towards a later down the track than what he is probably early parts of his career. So that's probably where my head's at. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, like, if we're going to get Ricky, it would be with someone as well. Maybe with a Jesse Arthurs or something like that, or a Takuda, like, if we're just going to double up on forwards. But yeah, that would kind of be, for me, I don't think he would be our starter for too long if that was the case. Yeah, I'm not too sure on Jordan Ricky. I like him. I think he's got some mean parts to his game, but I think there's a couple of other things that I just look at. I'm like,
just not there for me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And again, like, I don't know. There's certain players that I feel like they've just built, like, around that Broncos system that I wouldn't take out, and it just wouldn't work for us. And I think Ricky's in that same sort of mold. And plus, like, for me, like, you got Lecker, you got Laban, you got Kalis, you got Eddie, there's so many people that can fill that position that I'd rather have. Like, I'd look at more so, I think center is a big thing I'm just cued in on. Fullback wise, I think we're pretty covered now, junior grades. Like, there's still obviously an opportunity for another fullback to come to the club, but I'm pretty confident our stock's there. 6 and 7, we've got that in spades at the moment too, and we'll get to, obviously the review of the game very shortly. But I think, yeah, middle forward and centers is probably where my head's at.
Yeah.
So Jesse Arthur's at front row, I reckon.
I reckon you could chuck D Mariner in the front row and he'd do a job.
He'd do a great job. He'd do a great job. But nah, it's. I'm really curious to see how this all plays out. Like, obviously the Warriors have got like not say the bargaining chip because that sounds pretty horrible in this situation, but we've got like the opportunity to get a really good sort of like player coming off the back of Barney. They won't bring what Barney brought to the Warriors, and he was so incredible for us. But I'm sure that the Warriors will have something that will fill some sort of gap there. And just quickly before we jump off to the review, Ben Takota. Would you go Ben Takota?
I think it would be him and someone, unless he goes leaps and bounds this year. I think he hasn't really ticked on to what I thought he would. Like, I thought he could kind of get into a Nelson mold a little bit. I think his body will get there. But yeah, it's not yet. I wouldn't take him just straight up for Mitch Barnett.
Yeah, me personally, his family's all like from my area, around my area and stuff like that. And like, my wife's little sister's very close with his sister. And so personally knowing him at the moment, I would say that he probably wouldn't come to the Warriors. And he's got a lot of aspirations, Benny, and especially for the Broncos. He's still dealing with a couple of different things he's got to work on. So I'd probably say a no for Benny. He's such an incredible prospect, and like I'm sure he's going to become a great player in the future for the Broncos. But for the Warriors, I think it would just be such a big uproot for him to go to New Zealand, and he's still so young, and like I just think that he's a Brisbane Bronco to me. I don't think he'll be a Warrior.
Yeah, no.
All right, guys. Well, may as well jump over to probably the most positive thing from the weekend, right? How good has it been a Warriors fan getting over the Sydney Roosters, brother? 42-18. A lot of great performances to get through in this one, brother. This could take forever, honestly. But how'd you feel about the game, bro? Like, it was good to see that the boys came with a game plan and they stuck to it. There was moments we went away from it, but we ended up getting back to what our plan was to and where to attack. I thought we did really well to strip both those edges, especially around the halves. Both they're swapping sides. Obviously, new combination. DC has his drawbacks in defense and that, and I thought we attacked that really well, especially Rob Toya not playing that game. But 42 points to put on the Roosters in round number one, a team that we notoriously struggle against, I think, year in, year out, the Roosters. That's always a big tick for me, right?
Yeah. They were saying something like 8 of the last 9 games that the Warriors have played against the Roosters, they've lost. But we're now 2 from 2.
Love it.
Against them, so I want to change that mindset. They say 8 from the last 9 before that game. I say 1 from the last 1. But I think we played absolutely outstanding. I don't think there were obviously a couple of blemishes, but again, it's round 1. It's like expecting them to be premiers in preseason. You don't want to round 1 is where you're getting all your combinations sorted, and you're getting that actual first hit out that you haven't. As much as preseason is a game, you're not getting a full hit out there. You're not getting your full team together. Whereas the round 1 is where it all comes to. It's almost like the culmination of everything you've been working for in the preseason to get to round 1, and then to put on a performance like that and still have things that you can work on and get better on. Man, I'm so excited.
I think that's the biggest point too, bro. Hit the nail on the head with that last bit of your statement there was an incredible game. 42 points we put on a team that a lot of people are very high on. I know they were down a couple of players, but we're down a couple of players as well. But there's still areas we can improve for sure. And there's still looks like the boys have so much headroom to go. And we're going back to understand the Roosters. They're year in, year out. They are seem to be a team that let you down. They've got such a good team list, but coming out early parts of the season, they take a while to get going and that. But still, we're talking about a team that, as I said, notoriously we run out there against Roosters jersey. I know you said 2 for 2, but prior to that, we always do, no matter who's in that jersey, we do seem to struggle with the Roosters. We struggle to find a way. Last year was a very close game as well until, Chanel grabbed the game by the neck later on in that one and took over, kind of shut the gate in this game as well. So shout out Chanel and how he's feeling against the Roosters. But I'm very positive about it. I think that again, like defensively, there's definitely stuff to work on. You know, Ali probably didn't have his greatest game defensively out there, and we'll get to that very shortly. But it's so good to come into round one. We got a dominant performance, which we should have done, and we played the game that we should have out there. That I think that should be. We shouldn't discredit what the boys have done here, saying the Roosters are this, and that. I think we should be proud and very positive about this performance. So the boys have showed that they come in, they're ready for the season, they're ready to go. 42 points is nothing to scoff at. I know Webby obviously said that it gave us a little bit, like, 42 is a little bit easier on the eye than what the actual performance probably was out there. But 42 points is 42 points at the end of the day against a first grade side that a lot of people were very high on. So I'm taking that as a confidence booster for sure.
Yeah, I'm actually like, we talk about how we've struggled with the Roosters and things like that. I just want to I don't. It's definitely not a shout out, but just like over the week leading up to the game, it was all, oh yeah, it's the Roosters. Yeah, the Roosters are gonna, demolish the Warriors. The Roosters are gonna put on a clinic. The Roosters are so great, so amazing. They're our premiership favourites. And then after the game, you hear, oh, well, they're not ready yet. They're always not great in round one. They're always this, they're always that. And it's not, the Warriors actually played really well. The Warriors did this, the Warriors did that. And so as much as I dislike hearing that oh, the Roosters lost the game instead of the Warriors beat them, one thing I do love about it is we're staying out of the eye of the media.
Yeah, agreed.
And no one's coming to us and putting expectations on us because Metcalf's out, because Barnett's out. And what we're seeing is a little bit of a repeat of 2023. Where, and I'm not saying we're going to have a repeat season as much as I'd love that, but no one was talking about us going into 2023. Everyone thought we were going to finish in the bottom 8. Everyone thought that probably we're going to be wooden spoon. Sean Johnson was past it, this, that, whatever. And coming into this year, it was, oh yeah, well, Mitch Barnett's leaving them, so, and they've got Tanner Boyd at 7 for the first however many weeks, and, he's not very good, and they've still got Chance at fullback. They've got, they're not even starting Leka Halasima, and you get all that and you don't get hang on, this Warriors side is actually pretty decent, and so that's what I'm excited about, that we're staying out of the media. No one's talking about us, and I hope it stays that way for a few more weeks.
Yeah, 100%. And there's going to be a great matchup next week and this week coming, and we'll definitely get that towards the end when we get out through our team list and stuff. But, against the Raiders, it's definitely going to be a great contest because, the Raiders are always going to turn up and they're going to play at least a grindy style of football to really see where the boys sit in that sort of matchup. Because it did feel like this game was not played at both ends, but we were rolling through their forwards quite well. Then when they got the ball, they were playing very attacking style of footy. There was a lot of errors in that game, and I think it's kind of suited our style in a sense. Like our scramble defense was incredible over the weekend. There was obviously line breaks left, right, and center. We end up leading the line breaks at the end of the game to them, but it was close. I think they end up getting about 6 line breaks on us to our 7. But the scramble defense was incredible, and I think that we really frustrated the Roosters in the sense of they were trying to get into their mood, and having Sammy Walker, DCE play with Angus Crichtons of the world, Teddy's, Nwangani Tuivasa-Sheck's, they wanted to get into the flow of offloading, flick passing type of football, very high velocity Titans, Cowboys attacking style of football. And it's the reason why the Warriors system at the moment works so well is we play very high percentage. We completed very well. We won the field position for sure, majority in that game, especially. We were just pepping their try line. And, Tanner, as soon as Tanner cracked them, it was like, whew, here we go. All right, we found our mojo a little bit. I know the Roosters end up getting a couple back. One took it off them and that, but then we got back into what we needed to get to. And that was the biggest thing for me is there was moments in this game where it did feel like the Roosters were finding their mojo a little bit. The momentum was coming home, but we stopped them in their tracks. And I thought that was a really positive sign for us in this season where, we've seen in years past, we have been a bit more hard attack city. We saw that all last year. This had the opportunity to go that way, but the boys kind of dug in that moment. And I think Webby's interchanges in that moment as well was really, really key. When he brought on Fish later on in that game, he brought on Aaron Clark back on the field. The boys really took it to another level and they brought the game home. Not to say that middle period wasn't that great, because I do want to talk to you about that. I thought that those bench boards and stuff that came on didn't drop their intensity at all. And Tennisdale Smiths and stuff of the world impressed me more than anything. But that was the biggest positive for me was we scrambled, we turned up for the jersey, we look like we had intent. And any Warriors team that comes into a season that looks like that, and under Webby more times than not, that's how we look. We're going to win more games than not, and we're going to be in the contest more games than not. And I think we've got to be proud of that as Warriors fans, first of all, because that's the base that we need to set to get into the next levels of what Webby wants us to do. Because I thought the attacking football played off the back of that. You know, we started to find our structure really early. Those are the stuff that comes even further. But if we get our defense and our scramble right, we'll be all good for the season.
Yeah, no, I actually want to further on that point. You talked about Webby and his interchanges. I thought he coached it fantastically. I don't think there was a kind of wrong step from him in terms of bench players. When the Roosters, must have been Teddy, sliced through and gave the ball to Angus Crichton to score his try, Tanner looked like he was running in sand to get there. He couldn't quite close that gap. Immediately, Webby was just like, all right, mate, you know, let's get the other boys back on. You're a bit cooked. And I think in the past it's been, let's stick to our timings a bit more. But he noticed there that, okay, this needs a change. We need some shore up in the middle. And he brought Fish straight back on, and straight away from the kickoff, Fish, made an impact, and we got the ball back down their end. And that's the kind of thing where, that's what Fish brings. And we, this week there's been a lot of talk about how well Jacko Ford played, and I know we'll get onto that. But the way that Fish impacts this game for us, he's not a big minute guy. He's not going to play 60 to 70 minutes like a Jacko Ford, but he's going to give you effort for 45 minutes, which is what we talked about last week as well. Effort for 45 minutes, and it's going to be the best effort on the field. It's going to be the hardest worker on the field. He's going to put the biggest hits on. He's going to, do the dark arts. He's going to get back to, everything 100%. That you want out of a forward. That's what he's going to give you for 45 minutes of a game. And I think when we talk about the impact that Barnett had last year, where he was playing way bigger minutes and doing these things, and not to discredit Barney, because he's not back, he hasn't played, but they are two different types of players. And I think with Fish, we're seeing more of his impact now than we were before.
100%, bro. And let's individualize a little bit more, because I want to go through some of the big key performances for me in this one. May as well start with their halves overall. Tanner Boyd and Harris-Tavita. We'll touch on Tanner first of all. Probably for me, should have got the 6 points in this game. It did come out that Jackson Ford got it, and I'm not mad at that at all. But Tanner getting 1 point out of that game probably was a little bit like, what's going on here? But shout out to Tanner. That was the best game that Tanner's played in a Warriors jersey for me. The other game that probably replicated that was probably the Tigers game when he first came in for us, was pretty solid. Prior to that, I think that this is definitely where we want Tanner to get to, right? I think his kicking game was solid. There was a couple of kicks that I felt like he could have been a little bit better at, getting that pinpoint on that try line. There was a couple Tuivasa-Sheck caught on his back in the in goal, which shouldn't have happened. But he had those beautiful ones that he had. Obviously, Lecker's try, he put it right where he needed to. Lecker's going to get up and get those ones more times than not. His running game was a little bit more evident in this game. Ran for a 90 meters here on NRL.com stats. Obviously scoring a try on this one, but just he looked more involved. He looked confident, and I think that's the big thing that we want from our halves for sure for the Warriors. And till Luke comes back, if he can put out 8 out of 10 performances for Tanner Boyd, I think we're going to be better more times than not.
Yeah, definitely. I think I heard SJ say it earlier in the weekend. It's something that we didn't see a lot from him last year, but the run game from Tanner is so important. And I think what we saw on Friday was how far he can dig into the line before offloading or before getting that ball out. And that's going to be the game changer. And that's why, and with Kurt being able to run those lines that he can, what that did was that held DCE right on Kurt for that first try, held DCE on Kurt until Tanner was pretty much through the line. And then, was able to accelerate away. And then for whenever we're going out the back, and I mean, we, saw Kurt Capewell's try as well with the way Tanner played that ball. Or was it Chanel played that ball, but Tanner dug into the line before that.
Yeah, Tanner and then Chanel played the ball to Kurt Campbell for the line. Yep.
So he dug so far into the line and then got that out that they were still sliding across, and it created more problems for the Roosters. And I think like the way that Tanner digs into the line and how far he goes in is going to be how far we go. And so if he can keep doing what he's doing and working with that confidence of, this is my team. I've been the number 7 since November 1st this year, 2025, and I've been the number 7 for 2026 until Luke Metcalf comes back. I was saying last week, like, Tanner needs to play like he doesn't want Luke to take back that spot. And I mean, after that game, you know, if Luke was back this week, you'd be like, oh, that's a bit hard. Tanner's a bit hard done by here if Luke just walks straight back in. But yeah, so I loved Tanner's performance. I think, like you said, his kicking game was great. There are obviously a couple of blemishes, but no one's perfect. And I liked his little darts down the short side as well. Even like there was a couple of times he got tackled, and you know, never like my halves getting tackled unless they're getting tackled over the try line. But you know, he was just moving a bit more with the ball, and it's exciting. It's something that Luke did really well last year, and it seems like that's going to be the blueprint for a Warriors number 7.
Yeah, 100%, bro. And like, you know, maybe it did help him more so as well. Like, come last year, we had a lot of injuries for the run home. The boys were probably getting a little bit tired for the run home as well, for all the effort they did start the year. You know, having Tanner to go run out there with a pretty fresh squad, the boys are already amped up. You know, when I look at Tanner and Luke, right? Luke is a 7 that's going to elevate. Tanner's a 7 that's going to get you where you need to get to. He's a structural 7, right? So everyone else around Tanner will make Tanner look incredible. I don't mean that in a poor way at all, because you got to do your job first of all, or anything like that. Luke is the type of half that, like, yeah, everyone else could be on a little bit of a downer game, but Luke's going to try and push you to the next level. I think that's the difference between those two halves. And I think that with Tanner coming into a fresh season, the boys got a lot of intensity, a lot of effort. It helped Tanner to find his role and find his confidence really early. And that's what brought the best out of his game. I think everyone is elevated together with Tanner Boyd, where I feel like Luke's someone that can really drag you up, and kind of, you know, gives me more to this question here too. From Warsol, could the Metcalf and Boyd combo work? And this will kind of segue to the next guy that we're going to talk about here too. But for me, it would work, being Luke going back to a 6 type of role and Tanner to the 7. The only thing that wouldn't work for me is how'd Luke feel about that situation when he has such a strong thought about being the 7 for the Warriors. And I love that about Luke as well. And you know, Tanner to play 6, it just doesn't suit for me. If Luke wants to be the full control of the side, I think we give him the keys and let him go with it. And unfortunately, Tanner's the one that kind of falls out of that duo there. But I can understand that, like, you know, theoretically, you know, just going perfect partners, you know, on paper, I can see that combo working, because kicking game of Tanner, you know, the structural integrity of Tanner, and then Luke playing just, you know, off the back of that with the 6 jersey. But Luke's already kind of gone, like, in his mind, he's like, I'm the 7. I want to do everything that Tanner Boy is doing, but more. And then Chanel's going to be the side piece to that. Like, your thoughts on that combo, if it would work for you?
Yeah, I think, like you said, the forgotten man in that is Chanel. I think Chanel is the perfect foil for both of those guys. He just seems to be someone that can fit in with whatever half is put next to him. Like, he even worked with Temaiti a bit in 2024. There was a couple of games where him and Temaiti were going together and looking great, you know. I think for Luke, he more than earned that starting 7 jersey last year. He showed, like you said, he can get the team kind of on his back and up to the next level. And I think as well, with him and Tanner, I think we'd have too much of overcalling. I think they, like you said, they both want to run the team, right? Tanner wants it to be his team. He's trying to earn that. Luke knows it's his team, and he wants that. And so I think to put them in that combo is a bit unfair to either one of them that has to take that backseat role. I think what we'll find is that Tanner will continue to kill it, and he will happily go back into that cup side, and he will continue to work on absolutely killing it, because that's what he needs to do to get back into that first grade side.
Yep.
And I don't know, like if we can keep him around, if he doesn't head off at the end of the year, if we can keep him around, he's going to be someone where, say, Luke gets injured again, which isn't out of the question. Like he's had hamstring injuries. He's had an ACL before this year as well, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, this last ACL was very much as much as they call them non-contact injuries, that was probably the most contact injury ACL I've ever seen. Like his foot was like dug into the ground, and then someone tackled like his thigh, kind of, or like there's literally tore it apart, right? Like it wasn't like he was just running or trying to shift off his leg or whatever. That was just straight contact. And so it's a bit different to what it has been in the past. So maybe it's just a freak accident, but Luke has a tendency for injuries, and I love him. I think he's our 7, and I'd love for him to stay forever and ever and ever. But Tanner being there and continuing to work on what Tanner does best is going to be able to help us later on in the year. If Luke goes down for a couple of weeks, Tanner has a whole preseason with these boys. He's worked with these boys for the entire season, and so he knows exactly what's expected of him, and he can slot right back in. So I don't think a Tanner Metcalf would work, essentially, just because of Chanel being their perfect foil.
100%. I end up like, I understand everyone's saying, he's better at 6, he's better at 6. Like, I understand his facets of his game suited to that 6 jersey. And as I said to you when I was kind of just going through in my head, like on paper, it sounds perfect. Tanner's a 7. We've seen Luke as 6, running game, explosive. But Luke's already kind of shifted his game over the last year. He's training in that 7 jersey. He's always wanted to play 7. He's got more of a Mitch Moses type of 7 role than, what he had as that 6 role next to Shawnee. So he's already elevated his game to being a 7. We're working with humans here. We're working with professional athletes that when they get their mindset on something, that's what they want to do, and they're going to strive for that. So the way I look at it, even though Webby's kind of brought out and said, 6 and a 7, they're just jersey numbers. Like, we can have Tanner at that 6 and 7. I don't believe that personally myself. I think that I agree with what we both said here, is that it will become more of a Tanner plays better when he's the first ball player. He gets the boys around the park, getting to the points of the field, then has someone that's going to play off the back of that. And that's why Chanel's such an interesting piece of this puzzle, because he's willing to play off the back of both those guys and do his job. And then there's a second thing on top of all that too, that a lot of people always forget when it comes to the game of rugby league, is defense. Chanel Harris-Tavita is the best defensive half that we have at the club. The second best defensive half that we have at the club is Luke Metcalf. People don't really know that. He's a better defensive half than what Tanner Boyd did. And I love Tanner. Tanner's incredible for what we got him at the moment. And the 6-man bench even gives him an opportunity to be that man on the bench. If there is an injury, he can come in and take over for a game, when something does happen. But, when we got a 7 like Luke Metcalf right now, who had the ability of a Daly M halfback, and he has the ability to elevate probably a little bit further, in my opinion, than what Tanner has personally in that jersey. When Luke comes back healthy, ready to go, him and Chanel were such a good pairing. That held us in nearly top 2, top 3 last year. People do forget about that. And defensively, we're one of the better defensive teams in comp. So I think that's another thing you want to add into this argument. And with doing that, would sway the way into Chanel Harris-Tavita, because there's a key factor about Chanel that I want to, bring up with you, because, I think a lot of Warriors fans will see this, and it doesn't get discussed too much, but there was moments in this game where, our attack didn't flow the best, like what we really wanted it to be. There was a couple of like bounce passes, as it was kind of discussed by Webby. Shout out to bounce pass, always wins at the end of the day, gets the ball to the 100%. Right areas. You got Roger giving it back to, but the man that's always there, always in these little moments, is Chanel Harris-Tavita. And we have a ton of those players that just pop up in the right time, the right moments. Kurt Capewell, Adam Bombay at the back of, a back, or, Roger's always popping up in these moments. But Chanel's probably the biggest key in this area, because we've seen it years and years. Like we saw it against the Roosters last year, where nothing's going on. He puts a bomb up. We all thought, bomb's coming up short. What's going on here? Chanel jumps up, bang, takes it. There was another bomb that came up short over the weekend. Roger caught it, back on his inside, Chanel Harris-Tavita to put the game to bed, right? So like Chanel's instincts in those areas. He probably doesn't look like the most flashiest player at times. He can look a little bit awkward at some areas as well. But what you can't teach and what keeps him in that 6 jersey and what it makes him so good in that 6 jersey is defense is A1 to start off with. We got one of the best defensive sides on that side. And secondly, he competes on everything and he pops up in the right moments. And I think that's the biggest compliment I want to give to Chanel, because he's just consistently finding himself in those perfect moments.
Yeah, I shout out to Chanel, especially with that kick. Obviously, Chanel's my boy, and I'll get back onto him in a second. But that kick out to Roger, I saw that go up and went, oh no, like, you know, oh my gosh. And then you see Roger come down with it, and you're like, oh. And then who's there? Like you said, literally, who is there? Chanel Harris-Tavita backing up, doing exactly what no one else wants to do, because, like, you're tired, you've been playing for 70 minutes or whatever it is. You know, the last thing you want to do is put another effort in. And he's there chasing his own kick. He did exactly the same last year against the Roosters, chased his own kick, managed to be in a spot that he could take, like, you know, he could get the ball from Rog and get into space. And that's, you know, that is Chanel. That's I find it really tricky when people talk about you know, Luke and Tanner together, just because, like, I don't think people understand the impact that Chanel has on both of those guys.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, and I just said before, he's the perfect foil for them. But I think that's not even a credit to Luke and to Tanner. That is a credit to Chanel. The way he can, like you said, play off the back of what they're doing, be that secondary guy and know that he's the secondary half, but still be able to make things happen. I mean, that short ball he laid on for Kurt Capewell was beauty. Being back on the inside again for Rog in that first half, like, that whole left side together with Rog, Adam, Kurt, and Chanel, they obviously have such incredible chemistry and all work so well together, because our left side, every time the Roosters went that way, no concerns at all. There was, I had no worries at all. And I mean, like, even in the second half, when they got a set restart, Sam Walker could think of nothing better to do than try and kick the ball through the second, you know, twice. He tried it twice.
Twice, right? Yep.
And once on the first play, and who's there? Kurt Capewell, just, you know. And that, I think that stems back to how strong defensively Chanel is, because if you're worrying about your half and how they are defensively, then your second row is, you know, as much as you can go, oh yeah, the boys love each other, that second row is going, oh my God, okay, I have to get out there because he's not going to be able to make that tackle. And then the center's like, well, I have to hold back in because I can't, you know, I can't release the second rower early. With Chanel, it's not even an issue. Like, Adam Bumpy's like, okay, I'll stand a little bit further out, make it harder for them to get around us because of how good Chanel is, and he is so good at holding on that lead runner, making the hit when he needs to make it, and checking and releasing. He, like, his defensive impact is so strong, and then his attacking instincts are crazy. I mean, you know, we always talk about, I think it was junior Kiwis back in like 2017, 2018 or whatever. Yeah, like running through the line and just putting it on the back of your, you know, just dropping it behind you, like kicking it off your heel over your head and scoring. Like, it doesn't make sense, you know. And that's the, like, if I had to describe Chanel, I always say, like, it doesn't make sense. I don't know how to describe. But he, every time, it's just his effort. And you know, I'm getting into my Chanel headspace now, but like, when I say he's a good player, like, people really need to understand he is a fantastic player. And when he was when he said he was coming back, and people are like, oh, we'll put him on the bench, you know, we'll he's a great utility, and he may be that for Samoa. You know, he may be the number 9 for Samoa. He may be able to play in the middle. He may be able to play 6 when needed. That's not what he is for the Warriors. And that's why Timati hasn't gotten into this team, is because of how good Chanel is. Yeah. And so for those people who say, you know, Tanner and Luke, like, Chanel is possibly, you know, more important than both of them, or sorry, more important than either of them, because of the way he gels with the other.
100%, bro. The chat's absolutely loving your Chanel Harris-Tavita. I knew when I was going to get you started, it was going to start going. But just to caveat that point, just to put a little bow, just to put a little bow on that point. Like, you know, for the greatest example that we have, especially with combinations, how combinations work, we've had at the Warriors in 2023, we had Sean Johnson and Tamati Martin, and then we had Sean Johnson and Luke Metcalf. Sean Johnson and Luke Metcalf worked really well because at that point in his career, Luke Metcalf was willing to take a back foot step to Sean Johnson. Tamati came back into that jersey, especially 2024, and it just wasn't working because both those guys had similarity in the sense of like they both wanted to be that 7 or that lead playmaker, and they both feel real comfortable in that sort of sense. The only time that anything ever worked was Tamada and Chanel, or, you know, someone else and Chanel. Like, that's just how it worked because Chanel, it's quite easy for him, not easy, but he's simplified his role in the sense of like, I'm going to go out there, make my tackles, make sure my edge is defensively sound. And then off the back of that, that's when my attack starts to come. Like, you know, people are going to, you know, start looking at me a little bit more when I play these like really uncharacteristic, what do you call it? Unorthodox sort of
unconventional,
like passes, kicks, unconventional. But that's the best example for the discussion we had before with Luke and Tanner. Like, we've seen this whole thing, you know, not work before with Sean and Tamati. But it did work when we had Chanel in that 6 jersey, and that's because he was willing to take that back foot step. He doesn't have these aspirations or the headspace to be like, I'm the 7, I'm the director. He wants to be the guy that's like, all right, I'll play off the back of you guys. I'm going to do my job for the team. And I think we need more of that. And that's what the Warriors have built their team off of at the moment. So that's where we come with that discussion there. But incredible game from him, bro. Like, I know that you could continue on forever with this one.
Yeah, I just need a moment. No.
Well, shout out to was it Jose said like earlier on too. You did want me to let you know what's going on with the chat as well. Jose did say that Josh has feminine claps. So whatever you want to do with that.
It's because I was rubbing my hand like that.
I think it's like feminine hands actually, or something like that. So shout out to that.
I mean,
yeah. They're quite beautiful, bro. They don't want to put them on the screen anymore. They'll be on like Wiki Hands or something like that, whatever, you know, little pages going on these days.
You can buy them off me, buy photos.
All right, brother, let's move it over into, I want to talk a little bit of fullback. I want to talk a little bit of Chance Nickel-Coxtag. I think this is a guy that had more of an underrated performance over the weekend. Like when I'm asking people who is the best performers over the weekend, like I think Tanner is probably the first one. You know, we talk about. You know, we will get to Jackson Ford very shortly, but Jackson Ford came to a lot of people's minds. You know, I think that Roger came to a lot of people's minds. I would say probably, you know, look, Kurt Capewell had a great game. Aaron Clark, but Chanel, I thought from what I saw out of Chanel, he looks like he's come out of preseason healthy, fit, strong. And just his defensive work and just his movement out the back and getting everyone in the right places. I loved his game over the weekend, and scoring the try to end off the game was a little bow in his performance, and it's a massive credit to him, especially with all the talk around fullback at the start of the season. But your thoughts on Chanel? Chance?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think your mind's still a bit on Chanel, which is fine. It happens to all of us. So,
yeah, right.
Both of us, yeah. But no, Chance, man, he was electric, I think. You can see what happens when he has a full preseason. And he's not, you know, injured. He's not, you know, struggling with, you know, Tane being there. Like, obviously he knew when Tane went down that he could make his biggest impact then. That was when he needed to go as hard as he could to say, this is my jersey and I'm going to, whatever 2025 was, let's put that away and let's bring in now what 2026 is going to be. And I think he, like, a lot of people don't really speak about him, but he probably had like a 9 out of 10 Chance performance. Like, we think a 10 out of 10 Chance performance is obviously, you know, like the Knights game in 2023 and things like that, where
stuff like that,
where he runs like, you know, heaps of meters and does, you know, gets a couple try assists and things like that. But I think with Chance, he his defensive impact was really noticed in this game. The way he was moving the boys around, especially on the goal line. Like, I think they only score 1 try from inside our 20, and it was that Billy Smith one. The other ones were two long range tries, where, you know, it's going to happen, right? There's you can chalk that down to the Roosters being the Roosters, and, you know, doing what they do. But the way Chance defended on that line and the way he moved the boys around, like, I was never worried about us with numbers. You couldn't see anything there. And even when I think Sammy Walker kicked it in behind, and Chance had to turn around and get there and block a roach. Said he knocked it back and didn't ground it. The idiot.
Shut up, blocker.
But Chance, I think, was just really solid, and someone that I think is turning into our Mr. Dependable now.
He is. Yeah, 100%. And especially we got the back line with Roger. Roger's going to get his meters. He's going to get his line share. Dallin actually had his under his meterage, even though I thought Dallin had a pretty solid game out there. 79 meters is not Dallin's level. Dallin gets up to 150s usually. Bompy came out the 144. Was shout out to Bompy. Great effort from him at the center. But Chance, if there's no Chance there, there's really not too much go forward other than Roger. We can't be a team that relies on just that. But it's just all the little things he did. And as I said, it wasn't, the stats aren't going to replicate, in 144, he had 7 tackle breaks, which is massive, but only 1 line break in the game, which I'm guessing is what would have been his try. But it's just the look of him. He looks ready to go. He looks fitter than last year. He looks like he's ready for a big year. So I'm really excited to see that. Quickly on just Jackson Ford, bro. My God. Everyone knows what Jackson Ford brings to the side. And I feel like a lot of people do go in and out of love with Jacko because sometimes there is a couple of errors with what he brings. But when a guy's running for 200 meters as a front row forward, that's 22 runs of a football out there. He's honestly when you get, what would you call it? When you get a dog, right? You get a golden retriever that just wants to run around all the time. And you let it off the lead and it just does circles for a good, 100 hours or whatever. But for a football side, you need that. You need a guy that's going to be willing to take those hit ups just constantly. When everyone's got their hands on their knees, Jackson's going to take that hit up because he just wants the ball in his hands and he wants to just, get the boys forward. And we're so lucky to have a guy like him in our side. As I said, last year, it wasn't recognized that for his run home, that he was replicating numbers of what people were yelling out with Terrell May. When people were going, Terrell May is incredible, this and that. Terrell May's got more of an offload in his game and stuff like that, 100%. But Jackson's meterage and his run rate and everything is right up there with some of the best boys out there, but a lot of people discuss. But because his name's Jackson Ford and because sometimes what we've seen in the past, I do think he gets hit with that ugly stick. That he's not the prettiest footballer to watch at any time of the year, but the man just works hard. 112 post-contact meters as well, bro. Your thoughts on Jackson Ford's performance? Because I agree in the sense that he got a decent chunk of the Dally M points. He's leading the Dally M's with KP and all that this year. Shout out. But, incredible, bro. I was so happy to see that man bust out 70 it's nothing.
Yeah, forget Luke Metcalf being Dally M. Imagine that first Warriors
Ford.
Dally M being Jackson Ford. That would be insane. With Jackson Ford, I, first of all, all of what you just said, absolutely true. And I know we spoke on it last week as well when Team List came out and he was starting, and we kind of talked about that. And we talked about his 2023 and, he was dropping the ball. He was, not running the right holes. He was playing second row and he moved into the middle and he started to get better, still was giving away penalties and things like that. I'm pretty sure I was checking the stats and he gave away 0 penalties, made 0 errors and had 1 ruck infringement.
Incredible.
And that was probably a ruck infringement that slowed the Roosters down instead of something else,
Yep.
He is so good, but no one has seen it because of Fish and because of Barney. Yep. And, Dimitric's more exciting and, Aaron Clark is, was doing Dally M Lock of the Year things last year. No one looked at Jacko and went, yeah, he's really good. And obviously you are a Terrell May hater. But
don't call me that.
certified
I've come a long
Terrell
way.
May hater. Yeah. We have got you in AA for those, but or TMA. Terrell May Anonymous.
Stop it.
But no, you're right in terms of the numbers that Jacko Ford was pumping out last year were exactly the same, if not better, than Terrell May. It's just that Terrell had an offload. He had a couple more tackle breaks. When I just want to jump back as well, when Barney was announced as leaving at the end of the year, I remember talking to you, and the first thing I thought of was Dimitric. and how that will work for him. And then I thought about what it meant for Jacko Ford, and I think we saw what that meant for Jacko Ford in this game.
100%.
Like when Barney's not there, he's our Barney.
Yeah.
And he's going to become so important. I would love to keep Jacko for the rest of his career and have him play 60, 65, 70 minutes in the middle doing what he does best. He played the first 70 minutes of this game straight.
Yep.
You know, he would have stayed out there at halftime if he could. You know,
100%.
He would have just been doing hit-ups at halftime. He is a motor, which once you get him going, you almost can't stop him. And I think the runs that he was having, like he had like 100 and something post-contact meters, I think 112 from what I remember. Yeah, I was checking on it today because I was looking at people's team of the weeks and no one had Jacko Ford, and I was like, what is going on? But he just runs so hard, and like I don't think there was a hit up where he was dominated. I don't think there was a tackle where he was on his back, you know? Like he's someone that you can just like rely on to get you a quick play the ball, to be standing in the tackle and then get weighed. I actually want to know that stat of like if there were any of Jacko Ford quick play the balls into Wade Egan getting us a 6 again. Because that seemed to happen like 3 or 4 times, and Wade is a master, and we'll touch on Wade, but man, Jacko was really, really impressive. And 100%. Dally in for Jacko.
Oh, we love it, bro. We love it. And again, like with all this Jacko praise and that, like there is things that like Jacko's not a perfect player, and we touched on it, but this was a perfect Jackson Ford game. Like, you know, the thing with Jacko is he works himself tirelessly, that sometimes that his tackle tech or his defense, that sometimes he can get overpowered. His ruck control is not always the best. He does find himself marker work sometimes can get caught out at times, but that's because of the amount of work that he puts into just his running. He just wants to get out there. He wants to bend the line. He wants to just keep charging, and you need guys like that. And like, I just want a big shout out to him because I do feel like that, you know, if his name was something a little bit more flamboyant, or if he'd looked a little bit more, you know, flamboyant, I guess, you know, he'd be getting so much more raps than what he actually is. It's similar to the soccer terms, right? You know, you looking at English football, comparatively, you know, there's these Brazilian stars that come over, Estavals. They sound incredible, you know, they move incredible, but then you got a wingers, you know, Jared Bowen. It just doesn't sound right, but he gives you
don't want to support
similar
him.
thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just the same thing with Jackson Ford, but big shout out to him because he's a massive contributor for the club, especially when, as you said, Barney or these players go down. He's one that always steps up and tries to take it to the contest. But his front row forward partner there too, brother, James Fisher-Harris, coming back onto the field, having massive moments in this game. His offload game was absolutely incredible in this game as well. He's still got the passing game that, you know, it's something he's obviously worked on in the off season. But the biggest thing about James Fisher-Harris is that defense, right? Coming on the field, changing the game with his defense. 2 massive moments that we brought up, the interception and obviously taking the kickoff hit up there. Your thoughts on our captain out there, James Fisher-Harris? He's definitely come back ready to go this year to take these boys to another level.
Oh, 100%. I think he's a little bit like what you were talking about with Luke Metcalf as well, about being in like an elevator. Yep. The way he gets all the boys prepped and ready to take the field first of all, and he almost has like a watch what I do and, you know, do what I do. Instead of a guys do this, guys do that. Like he's very much he's not not as talkative. Like obviously he has the talking in his game, and that's perfectly fine. But he's definitely like a, you know, watch and learn kind of guy. And I think those 2 defensive moments that we talk about, like I wouldn't have expected any less from him. No. Because like that's who he is. That's how he plays this game. He is so defensively sound, and to him, coming from that Penrith system, like defense wins premierships. I know it's such an old saying, but that would be definitely one of those things that they talked about, especially with it. Like obviously had Leota there, and had like, you know, Yo and Martin. Like as much as they, you know, run hard and you know, can play the ball out the back and things like that, their defense was what carried them. And for Fish to come over here and change our culture even more into that, And it's such a difference from what we had in Adam Fanua Blake, who I love the bloke still, wish we never let him go. But knowing that we got Fish out of that is beautiful. But Adam was very much and he did it this weekend as well, ran for 200 meters, got his numbers, his stats.
Mm-hmm.
And scored a couple tries and was like, cool, that's what I'm here for. And there were defensive deficiencies that he had that it was a bit, oh man, I wish he would just step up to the plate there. And you can see he's fixing those things playing for the Sharks now. Like he's doing those things that he needs to do because that's obviously the system that they're in. And we're seeing it with Fish now. He's brought that defensive first mindset so we can have Aaron be a bit more of a run threat. Wade, obviously, these guys who used to have to make so many big tackles and time after time after time, repeat efforts. They're loving that now. They want that. And seeing that intercept from him coming off the line, like that's just so Fish. He just, like
it is, bro.
Anyone on the
Line
team.
Speed, bro. He was right there.
Exactly. And it just almost like landed in his arms. Like he didn't even really have to reach for it or anything. He was just like, all right, I have the ball now. Let's go, And
those biceps are his too, bro. Like just engulf the ball.
Yeah, imagine being the little spoon with that guy.
You talking about Chanel or you talking about Fish? What's going on?
Both of them. But no, Fish had major impact, and I think they'll look at their performance, and there's things that went wrong, and obviously a couple of times Ali got beaten on the outside, which I want to actually touch on a little bit later. But, and Tanner not making it back on the inside, which is, again, hard because Roosters were on the front foot. It happens. But for Fish to come on and completely change the defensive identity right after that happened, and for us to go, okay, that's all the points that the Roosters get. That's all they get now. Now let's go and show them what it's like to defend a 12-point lead.
100%.
And then turn that into, a 24-point lead at the end.
Yep. Nah, it was great, bro. It was great interchange, bringing him back on, the captain back on to end the game the way we did. Great moment to see Fish get out there and direct the boys back into that contest. As you said, it was like we turned the engines off for a little bit. Now we got to turn the engine back on. We got to get home with this one, boys. We can't make this a close contest, and Fish brought that straight away off the bench. Just quickly, we're going to brush over a couple more performances, bro, because we don't have enough time to do some team list reviews tonight because it's been great just talking about the boys and how they performed over the weekend. But first of all, I want to get to, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. Incredible. Just everything he does. As I said, guy that competes on everything. He was a big key to multiple tries in that game, getting up there under Mark Nawaqanitawase. That's a tough ask week in, week out, right? Getting up there, getting the ball, getting back to Chanel, on the back of, Adam Pompey's try as well. Like there's a lot of amazing moments that come off the back of him. 167 meters, 65 post contact, line breaks, tackle breaks. You're talking about it all, bro. He's just incredible. So shout out to Roger.
Absolutely. I'll just ditto that. I mean, Roger was what we expect out of Roger. And I don't know what these people are thinking about. Let's move into fullback. I think wing is his spot.
Yeah.
I think he's really found a home because he's not having to do as much of the, lead the team around. Let's put, let's count numbers. Let's do these. His game is so simplified now where that attacking upside is so much brighter. And he's making those plays that he, possibly could have made when he was playing fullback. Probably not so much anymore if he was playing fullback again. But I think he's gone from a lot more individualistic. We talk about the 2018 Dally M. Like he was definitely, stepping through the line on his own. He was doing these things, and he was obviously the best player in the game that year, and there was no doubt about that. But now he's got the boys with him where he's looking for that pass back on the inside. He's picking up that bounce pass and not immediately looking to dive in the corner, but get that ball back inside. And that's what's so impressive about Rog is his job is so simplified now that he excels at it so much.
Yep, and I love to see him back himself. There was a bomb try. Like, we could have had even more
Mm.
tries on the board as well. A lot of people do forget there was a couple that, obviously got brought back, and Roger almost getting over in the corner but getting bounced out by, I think it was Junior Paunga on that sideline. That gave him a late push after, and Tuivasa. That's when the Roosters got back into the contest with their try. Roger just pinning the ears back and just going for it. I'd love to see stuff like that out of Roger as well, especially at the age that he is. But it was a great little duo between him and Bumpy on that edge. Absolutely incredible. And just quickly, Aaron Clark, incredible performance too. But Stennis-Smith coming off the bench, young fella. I did want to make this point out of this because I felt like this was a very key point, and I brought it up a little bit before. I felt like last year, especially with the young fellas, we brought him on in the mid part of the contest, and it wasn't like a major regression, but there was a regression. There was like still felt like these boys still had a little bit of time to learn. Tanner's at a point now where I felt like we put him on and it wasn't that major of a regression in that middle period of the game. Obviously, the Roosters did get a couple of tries on there, and that came down to a couple of other, defensive errors that, we'll touch on very shortly. But I thought that Tanner, 134 meters in this game, 56 post contact, defensively in the middle, really, really strong. And he really held it up there with Jackson Ford in the middle part of this contest. And I thought that there was a point, where we need to get Fish back on because, Tanner did his job and he gone all the way as far as he could go. But I thought that he was really solid through there. It wasn't like we regressed so far like we did last year. It felt like in times where we were kind of thinking, we might need another front row forward or someone to step up. Tanner's pre-season to adding on to the season at the moment, he's taken a big step, like a massive step for me.
100%. I think Tanner is like you said. I do want to reiterate. Last year, I think towards the end of last year, we started to see really good things out of Tanner. But he wasn't at all close to what he is now. No. And that's no knock on 2025 Tanner because he was a year younger. He was 1 year closer out of being out of that red headgear against Jersey Flegg guys, and coming into the main squad. Like, that's a hard thing to do, and we were going through a lot of injuries at the time. We didn't have Barney, we didn't have Fish for periods as well. When your two big men are out, like there's issues there, and there's things that you got to worry about. And when Stennis-Smith is having to have a really big increased role. There's, last year I was a bit more worried. This year, if Tanner had to have a more increased role, I'd be frothing it. Mm-hmm. I'd be excited because, like you said, there was nothing when he came on. It was exactly the same as what it was just before. I think it was Fish, or did he replace Fish or Clark or Aaron? One of those two. Because
him and Dimitri came on, I'm pretty sure, at a similar period.
Yeah, around the same time. I think it might have actually been at the same time that Fish and Aaron went off. But when he came on, it didn't feel like we went into a lull period. Yes, a little bit further on, we got into the grind a bit more, and then the Roosters started to, get a little bit closer and started to, hit their stride a little bit more. But we were still keeping them out, and we were still doing exactly what we needed to do, and we ended up scoring, I think, 1 or 2 while they were on.
Yep.
And to go in at halftime 22-6 and know that you're coming back out with Jacko Ford, Dimitri Vaimonga and Stennis-Smith and not being at all worried about your middle rotation, that is so exciting for us as Warriors fans. Yep. And I think, we've got to look at that as like a real positive, that Tanner is making those strides, and he had an incredible preseason. And when we talk about preseason not mattering, we talk about the results. We talk about wins and losses. We don't care if we win or lose. The thing we care about is people doing their jobs.
Yep.
And Tanner, in those 2 games, he did his job so well that he earned that number 17. Yep. He earned making it onto the bench. We could have had, Morgan Gannon be used or someone like that who also played great in the trials. But the way that Tanner played, it was just so obvious that when he comes onto the field, we have this big shift in energy. It's not a bad shift. And it's not a shift in what is going on, but it's a shift in energy. Like, we're renewed, we're going, here we go. It's almost like our second phase of let's push. And so I think like Tanner is he's so important to our side coming on. He's almost like a better Bunsey when Bunsey would come on.
He's unreal, bro. And I just want to continue to see the continued progression in his career. But like to have a guy that's able to hold that level, for a good chunk, I think that's a major positive for the side. And we continue to make these inroads, especially with these young kids coming through, the Leckers and stuff of the world. All right. All the positives are done. And it's weird that we're going to be touching on certain negatives in this side of 42-18 against the Roosters. But there was a period there where the Roosters did find some really beautiful inroads. And there was probably a big name that was discussed a lot. And I want to get a couple of thoughts quickly before we jump over to the team list of the weekend too. Ali Leotoa, in that center jersey. Attack wasn't too bad. I thought, like, he's just big, strong, mobile. He's a guy that you've got to worry about in attack. Defensively did leave a lot to be desired. And in my opinion, right, Webby's always been known for giving guys opportunities to fix up their wrongs. Like, go out there, work on the things that you're going to work on. The only time you get an opportunity to get this one back is to go through next week and continue to learn while you're on the job, right? And I love that about Webby. That's the best thing about Webby. He gives them the confidence to go, all right, sweet, I screwed up there, but this is how I can fix it up. Both those situations with Ali, especially with Billy Smith getting on his outside, and I felt like it was just a bit more of Ali probably waiting his time a little bit too long. And that's what causes sometimes, people always complain about Dallin's defensive deficiencies and stuff, especially with centers inside of him and everything like that he always charges in. People don't understand, like, in that one moment, Ali would have been like, all right, sweet, I'm good. He's took too much time there. Dallin was just waiting to see, all right, you're going to make a decision. And by that point, Billy Smith, beautiful fans, Ali tried to go too high. You would have seen Rocco probably in that moment to go low, and he'll do a low chopping tackle, take him down to the ground, probably quick play the ball. But with Ali, what I would love to see out of Ali is probably cut down that time and space and make a decision a lot earlier. Because what that gives is your winger to be like, all right, so he's got that decision, bang, I can look out. I feel like Dallin was just waiting there going, all right, what it is. And then we saw later in the game, Dal go back to his defensive breakdown system to cut down time and space. It probably would have worked if Dal, everyone says, Dal, stay on your wing. It probably would have worked if Dal just went straight in for Billy Smith on that first time, right? Everything that everyone hates about Dallin, that would have worked in that moment. But early in the game, he trusted Ali. He said, Ali, you got the decision. Didn't work out in that moment. But it's the little things I wanted to touch on quickly is just Ali in this moment, don't just chuck the baby out of the bathwater and say, round one, he's been horrible. I know it's been a couple in trials. He had a bit of moments as well. But we're looking at a guy that's got a really high ceiling, high potential. Defensively, he wasn't too bad when he first came into grade. He's had a couple of injuries since then. Give him a little bit of time. He's going to take time to learn things. But what I'd love to see out of Ali is just, instead of just waiting for that moment, I like guys like Bumpy's very good at just waiting and assessing the situation. Sometimes that can cause your winger to be, I don't know what's going on. But make a decision, like make it quick, make it happen, because that helps your winger, that helps your inside man with Tanner, that helps everyone around you. If you get in and cut down time and space, especially on guys like Billy Smith, you can't let those guys sort of roll up. Because the Herbie Farnworths of the world, what they want is time and space. You don't want you want to cut down time and space with those guys. So that's my opinion with Ali. Your thoughts on Ali?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to shout out to all the couch coaches that say Dallin should be booted from this team because he jams in too much. That's what you get if Dallin doesn't jam in. You get Billy Smith, who is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah.
You get, they're like, I see it all the time and it infuriates me. It should be one-on-one. You should stay on your man. It's like, okay, but if Ali needs help, Dallin shouldn't just stick out wide. And I think as much as it was on Ali not making his decisions, I also think this is where Dallin should have shown a bit more experience, knowing that Daniel Tupou isn't that fast.
Yeah.
And going, well, I know you're making this decision, and talking to his inside, I know, like you're there. Let me just turn in and make that decision for Billy. Because if Billy has to pass it to Daniel Tupou, like we've got, we had Jacob Laban coming across, we had Tanner coming across. It wasn't the issue of we were beat and it was a 2-on-1. It was 2-on-2. And I think like when we see couch coaches go, oh man, Dallin should stay out wide on his man, that's what you get. You get people getting beaten on the inside. And so for us to then see, oh, Ali this, Ali that, Ali this, Ali that, like Ali is so young and has had so many injuries that he has not even 30 games under his belt. 30 is probably
I
a
don't
bit
think so.
generous.
Yeah, it's very generous.
Like Ali has not had first grade experience. He's barely had cup experience. Like he's had one full season of cup maybe and a little bit more other than that. But he hasn't ever had a full long run in the NRL, and to come
16
up against
appearances in
there
first
you
grade.
go. Yeah, literally double. I estimated double, and that was wrong.
Yeah.
Rocco's only had 50, and he's starting to really get to the point when he's obviously healthy of impacting games well. And I think only the best of the best are ready from day dot, ready from their debut. But Ali will take time, and I've always thought left centre is not a place to hide your worst player. Like talking attacking, right? You see Herbie Farnworth he came up against in the trials, just come up against Billy Smith. He's got Seb Chris, then Bradman Best, then Hemasi Makasini coming after that. Like it doesn't get easier.
On that too, like right centre is the hardest. For me, I believe right centre or right edge back row is the hardest, position to defend in rugby league because majority. So like, the easiest way to explain this is the world is more right-handed than left-handed. So shape runs always, majority of the time, shape runs better right to left than it does left to right. So your better attacking players usually get put onto that left-hand side. Your left centers and stuff are usually better attacking centers. There's a reason why the Bulldogs had Critter to start off their career on the right-hand center position to defend on that right-hand center because more times than not, teams attack right to left. It's a fact. It's like more teams will attack on their left-hand side than their right-hand side. So usually your better defensive centers will always get held onto that right-hand channel because teams are better passing down that way. And then secondly, on the back of that too, just onto your point, because I think it's a great point as well. He will have time to learn. Casey McLean coming into grade wasn't that good of a defensive centre, and he's gotten better over time. Ivan's just stuck it to him. Maybe had a couple of droppings here and there, but he definitely progressed within that area. Isaac Tungo, notoriously, I got mates that have played, Storm systems, all that sort of stuff. They still think he's really overrated, especially defensively. He's took a little bit of time to get used to it. We saw, I think it was a couple of years ago, Justin Olam just absolutely barf him a couple of times in the Melbourne Storm against Isaac Tungo. Like, guys like that, they still take time. Like, they're still so young. They're still learning the position. As I said, they've got the toughest position because every team runs their best shape down that side. You look at the Cowboys, Scotty Drinkwater is going to have 3 or 2 men or whatever. You worry about the Broncos running with Shibasaki and all that down that side. Like, it's just... At the end of the day, Ali's going to take time to grow, and we're going to take time to grow on that right-hand side. If we all stay healthy down that side, you'll see a lot better communication. You'll see better efforts down that area, and you'll see that him and Dallin will have a good combination. It's just going to take time. It's just really, that's how simple it is.
And I also think, to your point as well about left side being so good, that's why in 2023, Dallin scored like 24 tries on the right, because we had a shape for the right. We had something that works. And when you put your best, you put your better attacking players on the left side, like they're not going to be naturally as good defenders because they're great attackers, right? And that's what more often than not will get them into a team and be, what they are. Whereas like when we had our right side shape, defenses didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And we'd have, Dallin scoring tries in the corner for fun. We'd have Chance getting through there. We ripped apart the Knights in the prelim final on that side. Rocco running those hard lines, Morata running those hard lines, SJ somehow getting through. Our right side shape in 2023 was so prominent and so good because they don't put their defensive centers and their defensive wingers on that left side. And so for Ali to have to defend these attacking guys, and like I just mentioned, he's got Seb Chris this weekend. Well, he is named, I'm pretty sure. And then he's got Bradman Best following that. Like, it doesn't get easier.
Nah,
like left center is your best. Is pretty much your best center is going to be the one that will create the most. Like Adam Pompey, like that, his step on Mark Nawanga Nitawase the way he like the shiftiness that Adam Pompey has, he is like amazing. And so for the Roosters to have to deal with that was an issue for them. And I think, and we ran our shape over there so much. What we scored 4 tries down that side, like it's not an easy defense. And so just give Ali time, and it's gonna be hard because like now we're coming up against the Raiders on Friday night, which we'll get to, and the Raiders are very like they went right a lot against the Seagulls, but we'll probably see them come to their left a lot more this week because of like how good Tamale is, how good Chris is, Ethan Strange is out there, Hudson Young, like that's not easy for us to defend, but trust in the boys, trust in Ali, he will do a job.
Yeah, 100%. It's just going to take time. And again, not trying to make excuses for him at all, because we all can agree that was a poor performance. Like, the Roosters knew that there was something to target there, and they're going to go back to that. And I feel like for Warriors fans, it probably just reopens wounds from last year. We worry about that right side defense, so we're going to continue having problems there. But, the only time we don't have problems there is when we have someone that's actually going to be healthy playing that sense position, and he's going to learn that position and learn how to defend in that, because our defense is very systematic. It's just how it works. So what happens with that is, someone like Ali, all it is going to be a couple of weeks, hopefully, if he can learn the system, get it down packed, and then it will be set in stone. And if it doesn't, unfortunately for him, we got other guys that can fill in that position, like a Chance, and we can put a Tane at fullback. There's those opportunities, but I would rather see Ali get the time to learn and get better at it, and us to get combinations, than for us to chuck the baby out with the bathwater after round 1 because of something we didn't like to see the first time. Like, we can't be perfect all the time. We can grow and we can learn. And I think with Ali, it's just a big learning experience for him, because I'm sure all he's going to be watching this week is just defensive systems and how to make this work and what happened over the weekend. He's going to see him getting beat by Billy Smith more times than not this week, more than anyone else is going to be looking at it. So I think that he's going to learn from that. But we may as well jump over, brother, because we've got a game this weekend. I'm very, very excited to discuss this with you. But very excited to see how we go here, brother. The Raiders getting a good win against the Manly Seagulls. They kind of put the cue on the rack towards the end of that game. Then Manly brought it back to make it too close. And shout out to the young fella, Ethan Sanders, getting the field goal victory. As you said, it's going to be a tough task. The Raiders have got speed, man, left, right, and center. They've got guys that can make something happen out of nothing. But the way they build their game on is defense and grit, and we saw that over the weekend. For our boys, pretty much no changes from top to bottom. The only thing we do see on this team list here is a guy sitting in this reserve spot. Murata Niukore looks like he is coming back from a calf injury from memory. So guys, any guys with Jacob Laven in Supercoach, do watch out, do be wary. I think more than likely we may see him come onto the bench for Morgan Gannon for his first game back. But there's still obviously the opportunity, him go to starting role, Jacob Laban take over a bench spot, and someone like Morgan Gannon going back to Cup. But other than that, that's pretty much all the news we got you with the team list, brother. Your thoughts on Murata Niukore? Does he get a starting role, do you believe, or do you think he comes onto the bench, or do you think we'll hold him in New South Wales Cup for a week? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's another one of those ones that we can just hold him. I don't know if we'll necessarily play him in New South Wales Cup. We might just give him another week of rest. Or he might go onto the bench for Morgan Gannon, and we'll see Gannon turn up in the Cup side, which more than likely. And again, like, we can give Murata another week of rest by not using him on the bench. That's the beauty of the 6-man bench at the moment, is we're going to see these players chopped and changed, and we could probably see Barney come back a week earlier than we're expecting him to, and maybe not get used. It's one of those things where I'm comfortable knowing that if we needed him, Murata is ready, but not needing to use him. Like, I think our boys played well enough over the weekend. And I don't think Jacob Laban had too bad of a game. I think he had a bad Supercoach game. But he, and that kind of messed me up a little bit, but that's all right. But Yeah, no, I think Jacob Laban is solid defensively, and that's kind of why we have him in there. And I think like we saw that pretty much as soon as he went off and Lecker went on, that's where the Roosters started to attack more, was in that channel there. So they obviously know that Laban is fantastic defensively, and I think that he has a lot more impact than we kind of first thought, or most people would first think. I'm excited to see this Raiders team because they don't have Josh Papali'i. He
No, so
dropped
Josh
out.
Papali'i, yeah, he was injured in the last game against Manly. So Morgan Smitty's come in. He's a tough task in any day because he's just a straight, up and down forward. Doesn't really do too much else on that. He's defensively sound. He's going to be a thing, but he's no Josh Papali'i. I'll tell you that much.
And their bench, they seem to be carrying a couple more backs. I don't know about Joe Roddy. I've never seen him before, but
Matty Tomoko, Jaden Brayley, Dane Laurie's 3 bench, utility backs, whatever you want to call it.
So it'd be interesting to see how they use their bench. It reminds me a little bit of when we versed the Dragons and had Pompey on the bench. And I don't want to say that because I don't want it to be thrown back in my face, but I think that in these games versus the Raiders, both of them last year, like obviously Vegas, we got out enthused. They were ready, we weren't. Whereas when they came to Mount Smart, that was a very, very close and tight game, and a game where we we showed our defensive front, but we didn't have our full, everybody is available, everybody is around. And I am really liking the fact that when we come up against like the Roosters and now the Raiders, that they're also missing a prop. I think that's quite good. Like they were, the Roosters were missing obviously Spencer, and we were missing Barney, and I think like it's almost like a good karma thing of like as much as I love Josh Papali'i, Queenslander forever, he like not seeing him there makes me a little bit more happy for our prospects and makes me happier to go along on a Friday night.
100%, bro. No, it's still gonna be tough to us either way. The Raiders always, again, it's probably very similar to us. They built their game off of defense first, get through systems, be in the contest, and everything will play off the back of that. We saw that with the Raiders early. I know that they got kind of jumped early at 4 points, which Manly usually like to do on teams. They can put a big scoreline on early, and then it kind of becomes a bit more how are you going to sit in that contest, and when you get the ball back, what are you going to do with it? And the Raiders start to really claw their way back into that contest, and they looked really solid for me. There's a lot of really good matchups here. Like I think that Kurt Capewell going up against the young Noah Martin is going to be a good one. That Noah Martin played really well. Hudson Young versus our young boys, Laban, Lecker, and if Maratini Kode is going to be there, that matchup's going to be a really solid one. But the one in the middle with Fisher Harris and Joseph Tarpane, and then we got Jackson Ford and Morgan Smitty's, I think is a major one. Corey Horsburgh, Aaron Clark. It's just a game for me. It's going to be built on the back of our forwards. You're really rolling up sleeves as we usually do. Our back line getting us into field position the way they usually do. And if we can score points against a side that is just going to compete on every moment. We've seen that with the Raiders. We don't want to get into close contests because they can break your hearts with players like KO Weeks and stuff, which is open play football. When the ball hits the ground, KO Weeks picks it up and there's open field. It's red alarm. You got Xavier Savage playing off the back of that as well, and I think we've been caught out by that a couple of times playing the Raiders the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm excited to verse the Raiders. I think it'll be a real test. I didn't think coming into the season that the Raiders were going to drop off as much as everyone else is kind of expecting them to. I think obviously losing Jamal Fogarty is a huge thing, but at the end of the day, a good number 7 isn't what transforms the Raiders. Whereas a good number 7 really transforms, the Eels or something like that, where, they're built off their attack. And if their 7 gets shut down, then, that's shut up shop. Whereas Ethan Sanders was obviously ready for his first game, and he was ready to show that the Raiders aren't going to be missing a lot this year. And I think the wet weather did a lot more damage in that game to both sides. I think that game would have been a lot closer had the rain not been, a lot closer as in less points than what the rain did. I think both of those sides, the Raiders especially, can just drag you down into a dogfight.
Yep.
And I think that's what we'll find on Friday, is that there will be a dogfight going on. And we will have to somehow manage that, somehow get out of that. Do you have a key, I guess, a key for winning for us this week? Is there one part that you see that we could possibly?
I think it's definitely a similar key to what we played with last week, and that's attacking those young boys on that edge paired up together. Ethan Sanders and Noah Martin both paired up on that edge. I think that there's still an ability to attack it at that edge. Manly had, when they had the big line breaks and their big moments towards the end of the game, it came down attacking that side. Basically, Tanner Boyd trying to replicate what he did last week with DCE. Just put some boys on, you got Kurt Catewell running really good lines there, Adam Pompey at the back of shape, Harris-Tavita, just wanting those guys to really play good attacking football through those channels, because I think that's the best way to open up the Raiders. You look at the other side of the field, you got Hudson Young, Ethan Sanders, you got those dogs out there that, again, not Ethan Sanders, Ethan Strange. Not to say that Ethan Sanders doesn't have that sort of side, but he's still young to first grade, and so is Noah Martin. I think there's an ability to attack through those channels, comparatively running right. If we run right, we're running through, Ethan Strange, great defensive six. He loves getting under that ball and creating errors. Hudson Young, he's just an absolute dog out there. Like, he just chases everything. I think that's the best way for the Warriors to get through this one, bros. Kicking game, A1. Make sure you get down there. I want us to kick, kick straight down to Ethan, Xavier Savage, try and box kick into the corners, challenge those kicks in the air like Roger's been doing lately, and just try to beat him on the front foot and attack down that left channel.
Yeah, I think for me, like, our key to victory is all in the middle.
Yeah.
I think if our boys, and I trust them more than any other forward pack in the league, to get over the top of the Raiders, put them on the back foot, get us on the front foot, get Wade out of dummy half and creating havoc, I think we'll see a win there. I think if we can make the Raiders tired, make them work hard, we'll see those gaps like you're talking about on the left side open up a lot more. And Noah Martin was fantastic. It was Saturday night. Saturday night. So he was fantastic. He was great, but that's his maybe second, third game, first game.
I think he's only had a couple of games prior to that. Or maybe that was his debut.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who obviously has major reps on him, and now that Matty Nicholson is down, you can see him probably really take over that right edge spot. But then Ethan Sanders also doesn't have a lot of experience himself as well. So when we work through the middle and when we, break down the Raiders forward pack to the point where they are tired, is going to present those opportunities on the outside for us. I'm excited for us to attack Simi Sasangi, because obviously, now he's playing centre instead of second row. He's,
which may change with Tomoko on the bench, but we'll wait and see how that plays out.
Definitely. It's interesting though, because Tomoko was ready and available last week. So maybe that's like a lot of the Raiders fans. Like, I was kind of looking when I saw that, I was like, what the heck? And then I went on to like Raiders fan pages and they're all going, oh, I love the Simi Sasangi out in the centres. I think he's going to be great. This is before the game. I'm not always on the Raiders fan page too much, but I'd like to attack that space. I think that would be a good space to attack. I think Adam Pompey with his shiftiness is going to be hard to handle. I think Chanel coming through there as well. And like you said, getting Kurt Capewell on a short ball will be exactly what we want to focus on doing there. So again, like I'm with you on that. I just think our key to victory is going through the middle first.
I'm thinking it's going to be a tight one, but our score prediction, I'm thinking 20. I think I did the same score last week, but I'm going to go 20-14. I think around that, so maybe 18-14, 20-14, one scoring margin. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but the Raiders always get teams to play this type of football. But I'm going to go out boys to win again. It's going to be a tough task, just as tough as with the Roosters, maybe even tougher. But I think the boys can eke this one out if they just, as you said, roll through the middle, try and get to your points, tack down that left channel, and just keep peppering it all night. See how you go.
Yeah. I think I'm more of the same. I know that it's not meant to be great weather.
Yep.
I think the rain's kind of starting tomorrow in Auckland, and should go through. I mean, it should kind of fine up around Friday afternoon, Friday night. So, the surface will be a bit wet. Be soft underfoot. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think it'll be maybe 16, 12, 16, 14 kind of thing. I don't think there'll be a lot of scoring in this game. And games at Mount Smart between the Warriors and Raiders recently have notoriously been close. I remember there was a golden point game. I think it was 21 to 20.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
2023, yeah. And then even
Last year was tight. Yeah,
last year's
real
was tight. Even I think actually we've been a pretty good match with the Raiders over the last few years, because I know I must have been when Sean was back. We took them to Golden Point as well in 2022 over at KO. So it's always been tight with us and the Raiders. There's obviously been a few anomalies like Vegas and like Jared Croker's 300s, where we did what we needed to do, and that was Ali's debut, and he absolutely locked up Jared Croker. Thank you very much. But yeah, no, I think that we'll find it'll be really, really tight and possibly a wet affair.
All right, my brother. Just to finish off the show quickly, my bro, because I got to jet off pretty shortly. Let's run through the development sides and how they did over the weekend. Unfortunately, both our Harold Matts and our SG Ball going down to the doggies. SG Ball by a decent margin, 50-4. Not much to really write home about. The SG Ball side is struggling because we'll talk about Flegg side. Flegg has taken a couple of our big stars upwards to Jersey. Harold Matts 26-16. I didn't get to watch these two games, unfortunately, but just knowing that the dog system is always producing some really good stars, so I'd love to get back out there and to really knuckle down in those games and see what really went wrong. But the one I did want to touch on, New South Wales Cup obviously going down, but Jersey Flegg, I thought that Jersey Flegg was a really positive sign for the boys over the weekend. 44-14. We're talking about guys that, like, team lists of all the stars that we've been looking at coming through the system at the moment, kind of getting all put together into this one really good side. We got an opportunity this year, I think, to shake up Jersey Flegg and maybe get a Jersey Flegg comp under our belt. Motsu Pasikala and playing out fullback, Vake playing at centre was a great performance, I thought. Looked damaging every time we touched the ball. Harry Inch, playing some really good footy. Jack Thompson as well. Braylon Marsh, PJ Marsh's boy, very, very talented, that kid. But a very good performance from the boys taking over the Roosters, Jersey Flegg. Did you get to watch much of that Flegg game?
Definitely caught more than I thought I'd be able to. I thought that, obviously, there's a cool highlights package on YouTube. I think Warriors Anonymous maybe has put that up. It's like 14 minutes long. It's pretty good. But seeing, I got to catch a little bit of it, which was good. Friend of the show, Harry Inch, played mean. He was fantastic.
Friend of the show.
And a friend of the show, soon to be soon to be on the show shortly. But no, he played really, really well. I think he scored a try late and set up a couple as well. And he's showing that professionalism from rugby that he's brought over. He's been in the Crusaders system. He's been playing for Tasman in the National Provincial Cup. So this guy who has this experience is coming into this under 21s comp and showing them exactly what they need to learn. And seeing this weekend he'll be able to play with Jack Thompson at 7. I think we'll see even more out of them this weekend.
Bishop Neal jumping up to the grade as well. Looked like he took that step beautifully as well. Shout out to Gordy Alfala off the bench. Great knock there from our SG Ball captain jumping up to Flegg. But I agree with you. Harry Inch was a good one to see him out there with his age group. I know when he was New South Wales Cup trial in Logan, left a lot to be desired a little bit over at Logan, because I felt like just a lot of adjusting going over to Logan. The heat probably didn't help him. It looked like he was trying to get accustomed to the side that they had out there. But him going back and playing with the Flegg side, playing with the age group, you'll see a lot better development from that to start off with. And then when he gets the ability under his belt and he gets used to that grade, we can put him up to New South Wales Cup and get him up against the men out there and see how he really contends with the big boys. But good to see him take that with both hands. And Jack Thompson as well. We've been waxing lyrical about him in the trial period and, with Jet Clearys and stuff of the world. Jack Thompson has really been a big impressor for me during the trial period. And in this game, I thought that he was outstanding as well.
I think he, because he was in the New South Wales Cup side on the bench and came on Friday afternoon. And, we did look way behind the pace. I mean, speaking about Ali being, a bit off defensively, our right edge defense in the New South Wales Cup game was absolutely atrocious. Putting it lightly, I think the Roosters ran through 7 or 8 times through there, which is just awful. You can't do that. And
shout out the Rodwell boys or the Rodwell boy.
Oh yeah, just the fullback or winger Rodwell boy,
winger.
But they had, Tommy Talau, and obviously, he got injured, which is tough. But, they had a new young 7, the Roosters did, and he was outstanding. But Jack Thompson came on the field with maybe 20 minutes to go, and he was electric. And he was exactly like it was in the trials, where we were watching the trials and going, our halves played all right. And then Thompson came on, and it's like, whoa. Where's this energy come from? What's this? He did exactly the same in the New South Wales Cup game. So I wouldn't be surprised to know that he is, getting to that stage where he is ready for Cup and ready to take that on. Obviously, having Jet and Luke Hansen there is a bit hard to crack, but I'd love to see him back in Flegg and doing what he does best there too.
And Jai Lanane coming back very shortly too to see where he kind of sits with the side, because there was a lot of rumours that he was going to get a Cup spot or he was going to go back to Flegg. So I'm really interested to see when all the boys are all cards on deck to see where everyone kind of sits, because I think Jack Thompson's a sneaky one to maybe jump into pecking orders and stuff. We'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. But
especially with Luke coming back as well and Tamati. There's obviously Tamati will be bench in the main squad, we're assuming, but then Tanner drops back to Cup, and then you've got Jet, Tanner, Luke Hansen, and then below that you've got Jai Lanane, Jack Thompson, Harry Inch,
Brother.
And there's names we aren't mentioning as well. We are stacked in the halves.
Yeah, we are stacked.
It doesn't feel like it at the moment with the injuries.
Yeah, with the injuries, doesn't feel like it. But it's such a good sign, because I feel like what the Warriors are doing is we haven't develops. We're still developing, trying to develop a half and try and get someone that's in the club. And I feel like more than rest of the league at the moment, we're kind of taking pot shots of all right, who's going to take the big step? Who's going to be the development half that's going to take over for Luke maybe in the future, or who's even going to jump Luke maybe within the short term? Which is a good thing, because that's the one position, it changes the game of rugby league. If you get a Nathan Cleary, you get a Mitchell Moses, you get even an Adam Reynolds or something like that. You get a guy of that ability, a Sean Johnson, especially these days. I think that wins you more games than not. And I think the Warriors are down the right track if they go down that route.
Well, that's the thing. We've kind of got everything else sorted with our forward pack. Obviously that's changing year in, year out with players leaving and players coming in. But the differences in players that we are bringing in are positive. We're not losing out to the players that are leaving, which Warriors of old we were heavily. And so I think now, our outside backs are still working, but we've got heaps through the system that are coming through and learning how the Warriors play. Yep. And it's going to be exciting to see who can, like you said, who can crack and who can get into that first grade side. But the one thing we haven't really been able to develop is halves. And now we have almost like the fountain of youth in halves. We have so many young players that are ready to take that next step. It's just who's going to be able to show it. And if Jet's going to be that guy, then he needs to step up. I thought he was obviously it was hard for him over the weekend. The Roosters just ran at him and in the gap between him and Eddie. But you know, if Jet's going to be that guy, he needs to step up. If it's going to be Jai Lanane, we're going to see him. If it's going to be Jack Thompson, Harry Inch, Luke Hanson, there's so many names that can do so many great things. It's just who is going to take the mantle and replace Luke, because Chanel, I think, will be the perfect foil for all of that. So
I think we might end it off on that, fella, because that was a great night with Harris-Tavita. But no, thank you again, guys, for tuning in to another All You Can Eat Warriors. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And also, if you want to jump in, I saw Levon did a members show on Monday night, guys. Absolutely incredible. And I saw a lot of you guys jump into our membership program also to get into chatting with Levon on Monday night. I'm sure that he's going to try and do that whenever he can. Obviously, again, big congratulations to him and what's going on with his personal life with the 2 beautiful gifts that he's brought into this world. But you know, it's going to be absolutely amazing to see the future of the Warriors. I know we're in such a positive mood at the moment, which we should be, guys. We should relish the wins. Obviously, when it comes to the losses, we should learn and we'll see how we go. But until that day, we should always be positive, be relish, get around the boys. The boys are in a very positive headspace, and hopefully next week we can come back again with a lot more positivity than obviously looking at negatives, right?
Absolutely. It's like I think Hello Sport coined it. It's not losses, it's learnings. So
Exactly.
you either win or you learn. And I think that's the mentality we're going to have this year is we're either winning or we're learning and getting better for the next week. And I trust this Warriors side more than any other Warriors side any other Warriors side that I've watched to be able to get it done. So.
Or at least compete. I think that's the biggest thing for me as well, which is a big positive. But no, thank you guys again. And thank you, Joshy, as always, week in, week out, brother. My number 6, my Harris-Tavita, to some tenor boyd Luke Metcalf. See how we go there. No, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, guys. Take it easy. Waz up, baby. Up the Waz. Let's go.